Let's say you're at a party talking business and your favorite artist walks up, says he loves your work and wants to do a collaboration project with you in the near future. So you get to talking and eventually get involved in some very deep conversation that contains pertinent or even confidential information. So you decide to take the conversation out into the hall. 20 minutes later, your wife, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, walks over and asks you a question, or maybe they say they want to leave, when all of a sudden the artist blurts out something derogatory. He's clearly upset that she interrupted the conversation, and he says something, I mean, just really nasty, where he's like, listen, sweetheart, why don't you take it back inside? The men are talking about some pretty important or something like that, Now, obviously, there is some serious tension, and you're stuck in a pretty awkward position. I hope this never happens to anyone out there. But answer this honestly. Would you find that you could still do business with that person? Would that confrontation give you enough insight as to reasons you shouldn't collaborate with that particular musician? If you said you would still do business with them, believe me, I get it. Because at the beginning of the conversation, that was my first reaction. Is like, yes, I'd still do business with them because we're talking about business. Business is business. This person is likely to change your career, maybe even your entire living situation, and now you are stuck in this weird mental standoff. You'd hate to blow it, and you might think, well, if I just take my wife aside and explain to her the situation, even if she's mad, I might be able to diffuse the anger and still get what I want out of the deal. But truth be told, I had to change my position on this because it says something very deep about me as a person if I'm willing to take that risk. And again, I understand, even on a subconscious level, how morality can take the backseat to a game-changing opportunity. But we need to check ourselves at the door. And, I suffer with this myself. We need to check ourselves at the door. Will there never be opportunities like this again? I mean, if I'm so good at what I do that big names are approaching me at parties, regardless of the fact that we don't know each other, I would say I'm doing pretty well. So what makes this artist so different? Now let's look at Mariah Carey's situation. I'm the last one to tell you that she has too much money, because I believe in the acceptance of good fortune for hard work. And God knows that lady has worked incredibly hard ever since she was 15, 16, and has climbed the ladder because she deserved it. But Mariah is 47 years old with a net worth of $300 million, single at the moment, but she's got the world in the palm of her hand. She has some odd moments in her career, including that really stressful mental breakdown in the early 2000s. But other than that, her dogs live a better life than most Americans. And I'm not just saying that. According to News 24 in Britain, they spend an average of about $36,700 in spa treatments for her 8 Jack Russell Terriers. And she's performed all over the world, including places like Seoul, Moscow, Taguig in the Philippines, Jakarta in Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, Beirut, Dubai. So if there's anything she could stand to go without, it's customer acquisition in the Middle East. She doesn't really need it. Now, since we just did the episode on the cultural war in America, you might be saying, how does this coincide with the idea that you can separate your actions from negative rhetoric? Well, typically when you're seeking to separate your actions from negative rhetoric, it's because your actions are better. Mariah may have terrible rhetoric within her music. I don't think she does, To me, she's the all I want for Christmas is you girl. But the actions that she takes will say a lot more about her, and I might be wrong, but I would think that this falls right in line with our hypothetical example of what moral ground you're willing to stand on, despite the loss you may incur from it. And again, I'm not preaching on some type of tower. It's really difficult, but I think it's a genuine conversation we need to have in the industry because it seems to be a problem in the industry. I constantly see articles about it. I constantly see people posting about it. And even when it gets to the point of morality in the sense of celebrating the success of others, I saw somebody who posted on Facebook just talking about, this essentially this evolution will keep happening to me where I see the success of somebody else and I get upset at their success because I wish that success on myself. But we're talking about the idea, the ability to be able to empathize with folks on that level. Celebrating the success of others is important, but even more so, just standing up for the things you believe in are important, right? And I think the reason that it separates itself from the Maroon 5 thing is because the Maroon 5 thing is such a controversial issue, right? You have 50% of the aisle that doesn't necessarily agree with it because they don't believe what they're hearing, and you have another group that is obviously with Kaepernick, but the human rights thing is unquestionable. And Mariah Carey's loss for it is what, a few thousand fans in the Middle East? We're talking about a country that has one of the worst human rights track records in history. Women gained the right to drive in 2017, and they actually didn't receive their licenses until June of last year. So why go there? Again, she will make the choices that she makes, and I understand that business is business, but this one strikes me as just like too odd, not making a whole lot of sense. Now, with all that being said, can you still listen to Mariah's music? Because this was one of the things in the societal war episode. Can you still listen to Mariah's music even though you disagree with her? Yeah, I think you can, because the music itself doesn't support those morally negative messages.